typically this kind of wandering single father would be presented in a negative light, but it's not like that at all on this series. Like he kind of walks in and out of Soma's life, and it's fun. This kind of mysterious figure in a lot of ways, and
Right.
I was wondering what you think of that, like this kind of positive image of that.
Well, I've really enjoyed the character, just to level set there. I mean, on so many levels, he's been just really terrific to play and kind of explore with. But that particular aspect of him really is an interesting one because um, you may or may not know I've been cast to play a few dads in my day, and they really sort of run the gamut in terms of anime dads. Um, in terms of kind of their import to the story, I think many of the times they are just kind of a set dressing, or it's just important for you to know that the protagonist has a father, or sometimes if it's kind of a teen coming of age anime, the father's there to provide an obstacle to the teenager to go do whatever it is they want to be doing, like they're grounded or what have you. Um, but yeah, some of them have been more prominent and even kind of maniacal, but I've never really I've never encountered one like Joichiro. And I think what I've discovered with him is, and it takes a while, it's kind of interesting because as you watch the show, it kind of slowly unfolds whereby he is um, he's undertaking all of these actions for the benefit of Soma. Like at it seems like at heart, he's accomplished what he's wanted to accomplish in his career. Maybe there are some regrets. Maybe he looks back and thinks, if I could have done it this one different thing, if I could have done, I would, it would have been more fulfilling. And so he's taking all of these life lessons and kind of giving them to his son, but not directly. Like they never have a sit down heart to heart where he was like, Soma, I want you to do this thing. I think you'll be well suited to do this thing with your life or undertake this career. Here are some mistakes I made that you should be sure not to make. Like he never does that, but you get the sense after a while that he is sort of very subtly pulling the strings in a way that will set Soma up for success. And so the idea of him being kind of the wandering father, you're right, you never get the sense that he's kind of a reviled deadbeat dad. And I think that speaks a lot to what their relationship must have been like kind of prior to season 1, episode 1 starting. And you get some flashbacks, of course. But it's clear that, they've been a single father and son kind of duo for maybe 8, 9, possibly even 10 years by the time that we meet Soma for the first time. And so they've established a rapport that clearly works for them. And I think too that when we first meet Soma has no idea about Totsuki Academy. And Joichiro, though, knows that it's definitely where Soma needs to be. And so I think one of the things that I think makes the viewer comfortable with the idea of Joichiro just sort of packing his son off and like leaving him on the doorstep of this place with a note is that I think he knows full well that he's going to be in very good hands there. He will clearly be challenged. He will clearly come up against antagonists, but only those that will, help make him better. But at the heart of it, to the extent that he needs something nurturing, he'll get it there. And I think, and I guess we never see, whatever deals Joichiro struck to get his son to Totsuki, or get him to be able to go take the transfer student test in the first place, or whatever it was. But the fact that Soma ended up at the exact same dorm as his dad, with the exact same dorm mom, you can't imagine it's entirely coincidence. And so if Joichiro was able to make those arrangements, then you knew that he knew someone would be in good hands. And so I think as a viewer, you're like, it's true he's not living under the same roof with his dad anymore, but I think his dad realizes, in terms of, um, sort of career advice, he's taught Soma most everything he can, to get Soma to the next level. And this step where they need to be separated for a while, and Soma needs to be kind of run through the gauntlet of Totsuki, is a very important, part of his character arc.
Oh, in season 3, I found that Joichiro episode where you learn about the backstory about this kind of perfectionism, to constantly defeat yourself, to constantly better yourself, to be better than everyone, having to kind of drive you to madness. And I was wondering if you connected with that whole plot line, that whole aspect. I mean, especially for you in your voice acting career. I don't know if you listen to your own recordings often to see if something's better or worse than it last was, but I'm curious if that kind of drives you the way it drove Joichiro eventually, well, in his case, to leave altogether.
Right. What an interesting question, because I mean, I do share, um, some of his sense of perfectionism, but I think easy to say not to that extreme. Like, the way it was portrayed in season 3, um, it was, he was having so much trouble, um, finding worthy competitors, and thus finding ways to better himself, that it, um, just led to this severe burnout. And there, I forget the term because it's been a while since I watched it, those particular episodes, but it's kind of this like valley of despair kind of thing. And they actually show, um, you know symbolically, like he's walking through this kind of, completely arid, valley, no one around. He's completely isolated and, maybe despondent. Um, and so, yeah, the way he finds himself back from that obviously is a very interesting kind of story arc. And the way that, how it shapes his relationship with his son when we come to modern day, I think is heavily influenced by that period in his life. Um, and so I think you can see, in as much as he wants to challenge Soma and do what's best for Soma, and help Soma experience on his own what's best for him, I think, at least in the back of his mind, he's got that kind of percolating there, and making sure that he'll be able to provide for Soma, the most enriching experience in this kind of culinary, world, without him going through what he went through. Um, but more to your point, I know what it's like to want to get something just right. Um, and I'll be very honest with you. I think this is something that I I have mellowed a little bit on as my career has progressed, actually. I think at the beginning, when I was looking to either first break into the world of entertainment, or kind of after I had at least got my foot in the door, to make a mark, I was very hard on myself in terms of achieving what I perceived to be the ideal. And this could be in anything. It was in, from small things to large things. I think, in terms of, if I was putting down an audition, and if this was something, I did some on-camera work, years ago, and so it was different for that, because you go to an audition, you walk in, you sign in, and then you walk in the room where the director is, and the person behind the camera, and maybe a couple other people, someone reading opposite you, and you got pretty much one shot. I mean, sometimes they'll ask you to do it again, or sometimes, in rare circumstances, you might be like, would you mind if I gave that one more try? And sometimes they'll say yes. But what I'm talking about mostly is those auditions that I was able to record myself. So if I was putting myself on camera to send in a tape or a clip, or if a voiceover audition, um, yeah, back in the day, I would be, we just go again and again and again, like, it's not quite right, it's not quite there. And the weird thing is, with auditions, you get them to a point where you're happy with them, and then you send them off into the ether, and you just kind of forget about them. Like, at least that's been my approach, is that it's best it's best that way, to put your absolute best foot forward, send the audition off, and then get on with your day. And then if word comes back that you're booked, it's like wonderful surprise. And if you never hear from them again, well, you're not expecting to, because you've moved on to the next thing. So I guess it's funny in that way, like all that perfectionism and all that kind of meticulous attention to getting it perfect. Um, who knows? Who knows if it paid off or not? I mean, I get, because I would get, I don't know, law of averages, like 1 out of every 5 auditions might result in something. So in 80% of the case where I was driving myself to just get it absolutely perfect, and, absolutely apex of my skill set and talents, like, whoever saw it on the other end was like, this guy over here, I think will be better. Like, let's go with that. So I suppose there are some parallels, but yeah, I've never. I guess I've never. I mean, Joichiro is a special character in that, at the time that he was looking to challenge himself so much, he could not be beaten. Like, they just could not find anyone to beat the guy. I know his roommate Gin was number 1 seat. He was number 2 seat, but in all of his battles, like, he just had a special drive, it seemed, to um, try to find anyone who could beat him. And he was even doing, I forget the name of the term, when it's a group of chefs against a group of chefs. There's a
That French
special
word, that
a
French
special
word.
French term for it. Um, it'll probably come to me in a minute when it's no longer appropriate. But they showed that he did one of those single-handedly, took on whatever 20 chefs at a time.
It was 50.
And so um so he's next level, as they would say. um and so I guess I have not yet achieved that level of excellence in pretty much anything I've done, to the point where I'd be like, who on this planet can take me on? Who, I ask. So far, I've found plenty of luck finding worthy competitors.
Does it inspire you personally, the way Joichiro is always willing to, lose everything, to risk everything if there's, something to fight for, even if there isn't? When he puts Yukihira eatery up, it's pretty big. It's supposed to be his life's work, but he's very lackadaisical on it. And I was wondering if that inspires you in your own life to kind of take those risks when they present themselves, or you still find more of a conservative approach to your career.
Yeah, I mean, it is inspiring in some sense. However, it's an interesting question, because I think as we learn more about Joichiro's mindset, we question what does life's work mean to him. Maybe Soma is his life's work. The diner obviously is hugely important to Soma. Um, and it certainly at the beginning, it's all he can talk about. And almost all the way through season 1, he just keeps telling people, like, I'm just looking to get better so I can go back and take over the family business and do my dad proud and beat him in a food battle someday. And like, that's the extent of his vision for his life. And Joichiro, I think, knows much better. And we may never get a chance to have an in-depth interview with Joichiro himself to find out, what was your thinking throughout these steps in your kind of raising your son. But it may well be that creating the Yukihira diner was a step that he knew would be a temporary one. Like, that this would be something that him and his son could bond over. It would be something where they could be in kind of close quarters, and he could really show him, kind of the essence of cooking, at least, not for, 5-star James Beard level stuff, but this is how you make people happy through cooking. through culinary skill. Um, and it's, you know, it's a very kind of intimate setting, the diner, and they get to know their customers well, and really kind of establish a rapport. And so it might just be that, you know, Joichiro felt that that was an important lesson for Soma as he entered, you know, kind of started to grow into his own in the culinary world. You got to start with the basics, and the basics are, you know, here's how mise en place works. Here's the, you know, here's some basic recipes. Um, and here's how you get to know your customers and make something for them that not only will satisfy them for a meal, but really have, you know, a positive impact on them. And maybe once he had done that, like, I think by the time, again, episode 1, season 1, they're having their fried rice battle. It's battle number 498, or I don't know which one, 489. um I think Joichiro sees that Soma's just about ready. Like, he's got the basics down, and he knows how to cater to customers. And, you know, when later in that episode, when whatever, the evil developers are there and trying to buy out the diner so they can put up their high rise, the way Soma handles himself, just solo, to chase them off through the power of his fantastic cooking. Um, I think Joichiro knows, like, um, this chapter in his life has served its purpose, and now it's time for the next one. And so, you know, the idea of him being prepared to sacrifice it all. I mean, I guess it comes from, um, you know, his time as a student at Totsuki, when battles and food wars were all they knew. Like, that was the currency there. Kind of that was how you proved yourself. Um, where if you weren't taking a risk, what was the point? Um, and so, you know, I guess there's something to that we can apply in real life, even though, you know, that is obviously um, a fictional show, and, you know, these are animated characters, and at the end of the day, no one is terribly worried that they might lose the family business and be kicked out on the street. Um, but there is something to the idea of pursuing excellence, and being having a need to be ready to to make those gambles, to really do something special. I think if you play it conservatively, you can um, you can do fine. It's like playing the stock market, I guess. And, you know, you can get a portfolio that is kind of low risk. It's conservative, and you can be nearly guaranteed to make 3% on your, you know, total principal year over year. And that may be fine for some people. That may be all they need. And it's the people who are willing to really go for those risky bets, where they can make, you know, 100% or more on a trade. Um, the ones that do well are the ones that come out and win the bet or win the gamble. Everyone looks to them as being like, oh, this is the new guru of Wall Street. You know, this person really is a real kind of financial genius. Um, and that may or may not be true. It may be just they took a total lucky stab at it, and, you know, we're fortunate. But I think it's true that if you want to get to that level and that reach that pinnacle, you do need to be willing to take some risks. So yeah, for sure. I think any reminder of that I can get, be it through, you know, the genre of anime shows that I'm in, or otherwise, or other, you know, other places in life where I see people taking a risk and it paying off, or even taking a risk and it not paying off, but it having been worth it to them, because they knew if they wanted to get to that next level, they had to take a risk. Sure, I think I definitely take inspiration in that. I think the more examples of it I see, the more willing I am to kind of try that out as well.
Despite it being an anime, I see so many adult themes in it. And I'm not talking about the little burst. I'm talking more on, you know, on the third plate. I felt the whole plot line was this Orwellian allegory between, you know, central being kind of communism where everybody cooks the same, and, you know, the food war kind of structure being capitalism. And I was wondering if, I mean, I'm sure you picked up on it, but I'm curious what you thought of that whole structure in season 3 with Azume Nakri and all that.
Yeah, I mean, another great question, because I think, you know, as I've looked a little bit about, I don't know, one of the things I've learned about the show, and I saw a documentary a while back, and I need to see if I can figure out where to find that again. But they were talking to the originators of the anime in Japan, and kind of getting, it was a hour-long documentary on kind of just behind the scenes of Food Wars, like how we kind of took it from manga to the screen. And the creators at some point were like, and I think they were in the middle of season 3 at the time this documentary was made, maybe, and they were like, frankly, we had no idea it was going to go on this long. Like, we love the show, we're excited that it has been well received, but to be very candid, we did not realize there would be such a demand for it that we would be asked to make a season 3 and then a season 4 and then a season 5. And so I think, you know, there's, when a show is going through that sort of growth, I think there's, you know, a challenge for them on what is the arc for this coming season. Like, we just finished this great story arc in season X, and I think the characters have really come into their own, and we've got a happy ending. Oh, we got picked up for another season. Oh, we did. I mean, that's great. What are we going to write about next season? Like, I think there's a sense of, you know, creating a plot and a theme for the next season that allows people to kind of see what their favorite characters are up to, for starters, but also to introduce a novel element, like what sort of challenge have our favorite characters not yet faced, that it would be great to plop them into this environment now and see what happens to them there. So I think it's natural that, you know, for a show like this one that is, you know, just becomes so beloved and so captivating for people, that it would make sense to kind of use real life themes and kind of build on those in a way that would make for a compelling kind of plot line. So I don't know that it's as much, you know, the idea of the creators using the platform of their show to kind of teach any sort of societal or moral lessons or anything, but rather, you know, let's look at the world around us and what's going on, and you know, what are some themes that seem to be captivating to people today that would work within the framework of the show that's been established. And so I kind of looked at it like that was, and again, I don't have a seat at the table, and I've never once had the privilege of speaking to the creators of this amazing show, but you know, if I were to guess, I think it would be more something along those lines, where, you know, how can we take you know, kind of either a well-known societal or historical kind of theme, and then overlay it with the basic premise of our show in a way that would be interesting. And so that may be what happened there, but it was extremely well done. Like, I was, you know, even without some sort of realization of what the characters and the kind of organizations might have been metaphor for, I was definitely sucked in. Like, I wanted to know, you know, how it was all going to work. And, you know, they wrote it really smartly for that. You know, whenever you are introduced to a villain or movie villain or whatever, the ones that you can sort of see their point make the very best ones. I mean, it's, you know, you've got a, if you've got a maniacal mustache twirling Dick Dastardly, like that's one thing. Um, you know, for the character, for the protagonist to overcome. But if it's someone who comes in and they are, they're working at cross purposes with your protagonist, but you learn more about what their goal is, and you're like, I don't know, some of it sort of makes sense, I guess. I mean, uh they might, I don't know, they sort of have a point. Like that just makes it, for such, at least in my mind, such more interesting viewing.
Have you been able to work on season 4 at all? I know since the pandemic started, everything's been delayed, but
Right. I do not know anything about season 4. um that's That's the honest truth. Yeah, I candidly do not know where all that sits in terms of the show coming over um, to English speaking audiences. I do know. I mean, I think, you know, it was back in April, the folks at Toonami were talking about their interest in bringing, you know, additional seasons of Food Wars to Toonami. Um, and that they were just, you know, it was all in negotiations and working on deals. But yeah, to be honest, I've not yet even heard about season 4 dub.
I feel when Toonami brought it over, it just exploded in popularity. I mean, I think it was a natural, um, almost a, it was almost expected just because I feel like the Food Network is so popular here in the States that it would be a natural transition for, you know, the same kind of fan base to be curious about this kind of anime. But I have to tell you, when I was at Anime NYC, the line just to see the season 4 premiere, the simulcast, was, it was all across. Like there were people sitting wall to wall. I've never seen a line like that for any other premiere, like the whole
Wow.
convention. And I'm curious what that means to you to know that the show has reached this amount of popularity. I mean, I see more and more numbers in the Facebook groups on Reddit. It just seems the show keeps growing in popularity every day. So I think people are gonna keep seeing your work. They're gonna keep seeing Joichiro on maybe an unprecedented level as years. I mean, at this point, I feel the show might. I mean, nothing will ever reach probably Dragon Ball Z popularity in the States, but I'm almost shocked how many people know this show because it aired on Toonami so late. I was wondering what it means to you.
Yeah, it's really been remarkable. I mean, I think I can say this, um, you know, with some confidence, that even when I was first introduced to the show, by being called in, you know, to voice this character, um, we had a sense that it was something special. We had no idea at that time that it was going to end up on Toonami when we were recording it. That predated the great Toonami announcement by, I don't know, at least half a year, maybe a full year. Um, but you know, when I was first called in to do this character, the director, you may know his name, Kyle Jones. I've been privileged to work with him for many years, and you know, he told me he was working on this new project, and he was had a role for me, and to use his exact words, he's like, "And you're going to be the cool dad." And that's all I knew. And I'm like, that sounds terrific. And I knew it was a cooking show. And when I got in the booth for the first day, you know, we had a little rundown, and he, you know, told me what the show is about basically, and told me about Joichiro and Soma and their relationship. And all I knew was that it would be, you know, given a DVD release by Sentai Filmworks, and then put on HIDIVE, the streaming service. That was built in to the equation. Um, but it just seemed like there was something special about this show. Even at that time, there was just a general sense of that. And then when it was announced for Toonami, obviously we were thrilled. I think this was the really only the third show that I had been in at the time that had made it to Toonami, um, the Toonami block. And it was very exciting for me, I think, just in general, because kind of to, as alludes to the framing of your question, why we do what we do, as kind of artists or creators or performers or whatever. I think, it we like to entertain people, yes, but I think it's also very meaningful if we can be a part of something that matters to someone for some reason, or resonates with them, or connects with them on some level that's important to them. It is just, there's a little more that's gratifying than that. um and when I get to meet people that love these shows at conventions and screenings and whatnot, to hear them tell about their first encounter with a show that I've been in, or their impressions of a character that I voiced, um, and how much they enjoyed it, and in some cases how that it was meaningful to them on some level beyond just entertainment. It's just humbling and just so lovely, and gratifying, I guess. I mean, that's kind of at the heart of it. That's why we do what we do, and keep seeking to do more of what we do. So I think, I've been able to have those sorts of reactions for years and years of my career to date. But to know that a show like this one was going to end up on Toonami, it meant obviously that um, the audience that would have the chance to see it and hopefully love it, and maybe hopefully have it inspire them in some way, there was just going to be um, magnified exponentially. That was extremely exciting. And then, to watch how it unfolded on Toonami, um, particularly as it got to season 2. Like, by that point, you know obviously, um, the Toonami folks had seen whatever reaction they got out of season 1. They were like, well, it's worth it to keep doing this. Is getting a good enough response. And we were starting to see online kind of some fan reaction, about people were really starting to get engaged with the show. And even in season 2, there were people who were like, I wasn't so sure about this show in season 1, but I like where it's going. Like, I'm cool with it now. So to see people coming around, that way was super fun. Um, and yeah, just to know that it's going on as it continues. I love the show from the get-go. I thought this is just such a unique and exciting show. But I wouldn't have predicted that it would be received at this level, where the demand just seemed to be growing and people continued to be hungry. Apologize for the pun, for more. But it's so thrilling. And um, I hope that the creators have lots more exciting and compelling ideas to churn out to keep it all going.
I've read your Reddit Q&A from a year ago, and I was a little surprised how, you tried applying multiple times, had no answer back, and wasn't until your girlfriend, applied herself, and you came in and you kind of lucked out that there was some people that didn't show up, that you got a
Yeah.
chance. And especially because I'm not 100%, but you sound like a natural baritone speaker to me, so it seems like you'd be perfect for this kind of thing. So I'm curious, does that run through your mind that you were this close to not even being a part of this career, even though you can do it so well, obviously?
I guess it hasn't. I haven't given it much thought, and I think my mindset at the time was, um, I mean, at that point in my career, I had already been working as an actor professionally, and I had even already done. I mean, I had an agent, so I was getting work doing TV commercials and the occasional very small film role. And the agent that I worked with also had a voiceover department. So after I started doing some on camera work, they were like, "Have you thought about voiceover?" And I'm like, "Only in my dreams. Like I would love to do that, but I would have never imagined walking up to you and saying, 'You know what, I think I should be in radio commercials.'" They're like, "Why don't you give it a shot?" And so, as auditions came in, they would call me up, have me come in, read a script, record it in their little sound booth. They'd send it off, and slowly I started to get some work there, to the point that I was like, "Okay, so this is something I can do." Um, and I was obviously loving it. It's such fun, um, a fun career, and if you can get enough work doing it, that you can sustain yourself, like, wow, what a dream. um, so at the point that the advertisement showed up in the back of the paper for anime, or animation voiceover, um, it was right up my alley. Like, I'd grown up watching cartoons, trying to imitate certain characters, do Mel Blanc voices, whatever. It felt like it was in my blood, and I would probably just keep on soldiering on until I found my way into it. And maybe it would have been more Western animation, like the fact that I kind of got into this element of the industry doing anime. Yeah, who knows? But I think there was something in me that wasn't going to stop until I was in a recording booth doing voices for animated characters. It was a lifelong dream of mine. And after I'd gotten a little validation from some of the local commercials and stuff that it was marketable what I could do, I was like, all right, then I'll just keep going. Like, I will push and push until I'm, doing it full time or what have you. So, um, yeah, it was a stroke of luck. I think in the immediate kind of weeks, months, or year that followed that, it was definitely something that was present for me, that I was thinking about, like, wow, can you imagine um, if I hadn't been in the right place at the right time? But after a while, that was with HIDIVE Films at the time. They were growing. They were bringing on new directors, so I got to meet new directors, and they were putting me in their shows. And at some point, it was just such a um, it started to feel so familiar. There was it just felt right. It felt like it was what was happening was meant to be happening. That I didn't think about the what ifs anymore. It was just like, this is the new normal. Like, I'm in the anime industry, and um, I keep getting asked to come back and do bigger and bigger roles. I guess that signals that I'm doing the right thing, and I'm where I'm supposed to be. So I just sort of let that become my new foundation for what would follow.
I know voice acting or dubbing in anime is a bit of a solitary experience than people imagine, from speaking to voice actors for years, that they're not usually in the booth together.
Mm.
But I'm curious for this series if you've gotten to meet the other actors, because it just seems like such a fun show to work on. But I don't know what the booth kind of work is over there
Good
at Sentai,
point.
I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think in terms of the mechanics of voicing a character and being in the booth, it's very much like the other examples you've heard about. We do have one actor at a time in almost all circumstances. It's rare, even pre-COVID, for there to be multiple actors in a booth. It's appropriate sometimes. I think, like, if you're doing Walla sessions or something, if there's a handful of people that are at the studio at the same time for some reason, and they're all working on this show, maybe the director can call them all in to do some murmuring customers at a restaurant or whatever. But yeah, by and large, it's we're in there one at a time, and um, yeah, we never get to play off of each other, and that is something that I've just grown used to, and I presume everyone else that does this as well has grown used to. It's you know it's one thing to be on a stage in a production, a live production, or on a TV set or on a movie set, and that give and take between actors is so important. Um, and that is, you don't get that in the booth. However, um, you look for new cues, you look for new sources of inspiration. um, we're fortunate in that everything we're doing has already been done in Japan. So like we're walking into a um, process where there's already a completed production that in 99% of the time is a show that has done very well in Japan, is known. The reason it has come to America is because it did well in Japan, and it did well in Japan because it was well produced and well directed and well acted. And so we're getting this, high quality product delivered to us that we then turn into something for an English language audience. And so even in those cases where, sometimes when I walk in to a show and we're recording whatever, the first episode or the first episode in a batch, um, I may I may be the last guy to show up. So like maybe all the voices in English language are already laid down and I'm just filling in. So I get everyone's work. I get everyone's kind of tracks to work off of. Um, and so that, that's a nice thing to have. Sometimes I'm the first one and I've got no fellow actors to work off, but we do have the Japanese, which is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, so we can listen to what's been done, obviously at a high, quality level, um, and we can play off of that. And so, um, to answer part of your question, like that's sort of the process. And it. I don't know. I've never felt terribly solitary, even though I'm in a booth by myself. I mean, across the glass, there's always two friendly, encouraging people that you're working with and can see and interact with in real time. And then you do feel, I guess as long as I've been in the industry, I've come to know many of my fellow actors quite well and to get to know their voices fairly well. And so if I'm, even without knowing who's in the cast, I walk into a show for the first time, walk into the booth, put on the headphones, and several actors have already been there, and I'm playing opposite. I don't know, whatever. Um, I'm playing some sort of um, corporate uh, renegade, and I'm in a meeting with a bunch of other kind of exec type people, and I hear their voices and they're like, I know exactly who that is. And that kind of, I don't know, that it sort of amplifies the feeling of we're still a family of actors that know each other well and respect each other quite a lot. And so there's comfort in hearing those voices that you know so well. And so to segue on to kind of the next part of your question for this show in particular, um, it's from day one, I was lucky to know many of the actors already quite well. So uh, Blake Shepard, who plays Soma, I knew very well. He and I have been friends for a long time. And so, yeah, we joked about kind of him playing my son. Um, he he is actually many many years older than my real life son. So we just joke at the idea of me being his dad and stuff. And then many of the other actresses, and actors. John Swayze is an important role in the show. I've known him for decades. Brittany Karbowski I've known very well. Lucy Christian I know very well. Like just these top tier um, top tier actors and actresses. Um, so we've done many shows before, and it was just it's fun to kind of step into something new, kind of with them, at least metaphorically speaking, um, or figuratively speaking. Um, because the show really is, as mentioned before, just wholly unique. And so we're kind of having this experience and this sense of wonderment together. And so I've been able to see them live and in person many times since the debut of this. And so we can kind of, and we've even been at screenings together and been able to kind of talk, do a Q&A with fans afterwards. So we're getting to experience it together at the same time in that way. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun.
This is my last question. I saw, in your rated Q&A, you mentioned how you were most impressed by the fried rice, what could make it so amazing. And fans kept asking you if you've ever made something from the show, and you alluded to after the Reddit that you'd go make that potato dish Soma makes in the first episode.
Yes.
So it's been a year. Did it happen?
It has not yet happened. I'm gonna blame the pandemic. How about that? But I am no less interested or intent on making that thing. I guess to be completely honest, I'm slightly intimidated. One thing about me, I guess, that is kind of relevant to the theme of this show is I hate wasting food. I can't stand it. Like that's my one kind of just strange peccadillo is that like I'm the leftover king in our household. Like, people will make a dish, we'll all enjoy it the first night, and then the next night everyone's ready for something new. And I'm like, hey, there's a whole tub of XYZ in the fridge. Like, why aren't we tackling that? And so it'll normally be me eating leftovers while everyone else enjoys the new thing. And then I'll try the new thing the next night. Like that happens all the time in my house. And so I think, tying back to your first question about perfectionism, if I was going to attempt this uh, bacon potato loaf, I would want to get it right. Partially for the purposes of good pictures for the internet, but also because I would hate to get it wrong and then have it be inedible. And then there's this whole dish that would go to waste. Like that would just kill me. So I uh, I will double down a year later here today and say I'm going to make this thing. I will do it, and I'll even commit to to doing it before someone has the chance to ask me again in a year if I did it. So I'm giving myself a deadline now, but I'm going to make it happen, and I'll make sure you know.